Coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
My name's Christina Burgess, and I'll tell you all about the second annual March for Life rally.
I'm here to tell you how the coronavirus affected a VCU alumni's family vacation.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Sneed, and I'll be telling you about the goals and the start of the 2020 VCU baseball season.
All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Joy Foltz.
And I'm Erica Mogan. Thank you for joining us.
We begin tonight with what's become a major global concern, coronavirus, officially called COVID-19. According to CBS, since this weekend, there have been over 79,000 reported cases of coronavirus worldwide, with almost all of these cases in China. InSight's Evan Neri is in our Richmond newsroom and spoke to a VCU student whose concern about the virus is a matter of family. Good evening, Evan.
Good evening, Joy. VCU is over 7,600 miles away from Wuhan, China, where the virus began. But for one international student, the virus hits close to home. Chinese international student Jingping Chen is far from home and fears for his family's health at a time like this.
So I'm worried about them, worried about my family. I would talk to them through video for 3 times a week, and they would let me know that they are okay.
Chen says his parents live just 30 miles outside of Wuhan, China, the center of the epidemic. They can't leave the house much, just like the more than 780 million people in the region, according to CNN, whose travel is now restricted.
One of the members of a family, I recommended to go out every 2 days for some grocery shopping. When they go out, they have to wear goggles, a mask, and special clothes.
You may have seen pictures of people in China wearing masks to prevent the spread of the illness. However, health officials say that some masks, especially surgical masks, like this one here, offer little protection against airborne viruses. Closer to home, George Mason University had a close call in late January when one of their students was tested for the virus and was soon cleared. The whole situation prompted VCU to implement a travel ban for faculty and staff.
VCU has implemented, sort of a travel, stoppage to those areas for administration so that we don't want faculty, administrators currently traveling to the areas that we know there are confirmed cases.
Chen says he's worried.
And anxious that the number would go up, and we don't know when we will win this fight.
A fight the whole world is watching. For VCU InSight, I'm Evan Neri. I recently spoke with Chen, and his family is still healthy. At the beginning of this month, the U.S. State Department issued its strongest warning about Americans going to China, Level 4, do not travel. Joy?
InSight's Evan Neri reporting from our Richmond newsroom. Thanks, Evan.
A VCU English professor who teaches both college students and inmates at the Richmond City Jail has started a podcast. InSight's Brad Vassar has more.
Hey everybody, welcome to Writing Our Way Out, the podcast.
Almost a decade ago, the VCU English Department started the Open Minds program, a partnership with the Richmond City Sheriff's Office. The main focus? Social problems like racism in the criminal justice system. Professor David Coogan's course teaches VCU students and potential inmates under the same roof. Now Coogan is beginning a podcast in which he and guests discuss some of the same topics that he teaches his students on campus and behind bars.
We select stories in season 1 that are all about the childhood issues that push a kid off balance and make them vulnerable to the criminal justice system.
So far, they've recorded 2 episodes on their website. The podcast is inspired by Coogan's book.
We've done over 60 events, readings, discussions, workshops.
In this book, Coogan's 10 co-authors share stories written in a writing workshop taught here at the Richmond City Jail. Stan Craddock was an inmate for 18 months. He said that he jumped at the chance to write his way out in Coogan's class. Craddock is one of the voices that can be heard on the show, and he says one of the podcast's main goals is to pass on what he learned from Coogan's class in jail.
Dave wanted me to go back in there and understand what my role was, how I hurt people, as well as how I hurt people that I don't know. in society. And I never even thought about that.
And for Coogan, that's what it's all about. For VCU InSight, I'm Brad Vassar.
Coogan says that his and his producers are planning on recording their next episode on February 27th. It'll discuss the reasons why young Americans turn to crime.
Despite strong efforts to enact gun control laws, Governor Ralph Northam has already hit a snag. A Virginia State Senate committee recently voted to table a bill that would have banned assault weapon sales across the state. The bill was championed by Northam, a Democrat. 4 Democrats surprised him and others and voted against it. The bill is tabled while a crime commission reviews it. The Senate and House have already passed 5 gun control bills, including for universal background checks and red flag intervention. Pro-life advocates rallied at the state capitol in mid-February for the second annual March for Life rally. Recent proposed legislation would ease existing abortion laws. Protesters are hoping for a change. InSight's Christina Burgess has more.
It was a wet day at the Capitol as protesters held signs in one hand and umbrellas in the other. The second annual March for Life rally was hosted by March for Life. Longtime friends Monica Koyman and Kathy Ritza drove here from Virginia Beach.
We're here to speak for the right for the unborn, to be heard and to have a voice.
I wasn't going to come, but then I saw the bills that are before the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Bills such as Virginia Senate Bill 21 that was introduced this year. If passed, this bill would take away some of the restrictions on abortions, like requiring a woman to obtain an ultrasound and the 24-hour waiting period before the procedure could be done. People of all ages were seen marching in the streets of downtown Richmond, like mother of 7, Gina Tate, who came with her children.
They are aware of the situation because we've grown up talking about it. So they wanted to come, actually. It was their decision to come today, so I drove them.
Last year's March for Life rally had around 7,000 people gathered here at the state capitol. However, this year's rally did not have as big as a turnout.
We're here today to let them know that we oppose these bills.
The march ended in front of the capitol with signs waving and songs being sung to show the unified front that these pro-life advocates have. For VCU InSight, I'm Christina Burgess.
Senate Bill 2-1 was folded into another bill and is now in the Virginia House of Delegates.
State education groups say that Virginia schools are struggling despite the need for more funding. Teachers and supporters recently decided to do something about it. InSight's Andy Riddler is reporting from our Richmond newsroom with more. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Erica. I met with people on the front lines of the push for more school funding from the state capitol. Here, people expressed their concerns before the House and Senate committees released their proposed budgets.
Fund our schools! Fund our schools! We don't have enough guidance counselors, social workers, and even teachers.
Carrie Treadway, a teacher at Fox Elementary in Richmond's Fan District, was just one of many to rally on February 16th in support of more education funding from the General Assembly. Committees from both chambers made budget proposals for the next 2 fiscal years. These will be voted on in their respective chambers. Then another committee will bring it all together.
It's just taking that step and saying, you know what, we have not done our job. It's our constitutional obligation to fund our schools, and we have not upheld that standard.
One of the founders for the Fund Our Schools campaign is Rachel Dean. She said the proposals were crucial to improving schools going forward.
I don't think we can overstate how important this 2-year budget is. We have been in a school funding crisis for over a decade, really since the Great Recession.
And while Fund Our Schools VA knows that Budget Day was crucial, they are also aware that this is a fight that will go on.
We just launched a few months ago, so we know that we're in it for the long haul. But we have been really heartened to see how much support is out there for public education.
Treadway says that Virginia schools have been neglected for too long, but she finally feels excited for the future.
For the first time in a long time, I'm feeling hope, which is really exciting to see, that people are kind of taking a stand and pushing back.
According to VPM, more than $1 billion in new spending has been proposed towards kindergarten through high school. However, the proposed teacher pay increase doesn't live up to the teachers' hopes. Erica?
InSight's Andy Riddler reporting from our Richmond newsroom. Thanks, Andy.
Electric school buses will soon be hitting the streets of Richmond. Dominion Energy says 50 electric school buses will be up and running in Central Virginia by the end of 2020. The plan includes selling buses to 16 different Virginia school districts, including Powhatan, Richmond City, and Chesterfield. Richmond will get 4 of these buses, while Powhatan and Chesterfield will each get 2. According to Dominion, each electric bus will cost about $300,000. School districts will only pay the typical cost of a diesel bus, which is about $100,000. The buses are said to reduce gas emissions, supply energy back to the electric grid, and lower spending costs on maintenance.
Virginia lawmakers have finally voted to close a legal loophole against sex outside of marriage. The colonial era meant unmarried people could be criminally charged for having consensual sex. Today, it's actually a Class 4 misdemeanor and carries a fine up to $250. In 2005, the Virginia Supreme Court declared the law unconstitutional. Democratic delegate Mark Levine proposed this bill, saying, quote, "It's a stupid law." And after passing the bipartisan support in both of the House and the Senate, the bill is now headed to the Governor Northam's desk, where it's expected to be signed into a law. New bills passed by the House and the Senate aim to reduce fines on simple marijuana possession. The House bill results in a fine of $25 and maybe a summons for simple possession. Currently, the fine is up to $500 with possible jail time. The Senate's version imposes on a fine up to $50 or community service. At a recent rally downtown Richmond, the Marijuana Justice Coalition says that in the House, the bill, young people will have harsher punishments than adults for possession of marijuana.
February is Black History Month, and there's a local art gallery with an exhibit all about it. I got a chance to talk to the owner and why this is important to him. Located on Richmond's South Side is the Well Art Gallery. Home to over 20 Black history-inspired pieces of art, the exhibit is called Black History Now. Owner and Richmond native A.J. Brewer saw a need for a unique space and exhibit like this in his community.
It's got that bug to create as much as I possibly could in the neighborhoods that birthed and raised me.
Brewer says he deeply admires art and wanted to give other people the chance to do the same.
I love art, and I love Black art, and I love Black music, and I love my neighborhood, and I love how it's changing, and I want to make sure that I do everything that I can do to, again, keep my culture as relevant as possible.
Gallery manager Ray Fields, who goes by Rosetta, says the exhibit answers the question,
what is Black history? How is it being defined? Who are the Black history makers? So I really wanted to piece together an exhibit with different media, focusing on that and creating those conversations.
The exhibit includes artists from all over the country, including Justice DeWhite, who shows his idea of self-love in this painting here.
People can try to project negative energy onto you, but as people of color, we have to stand in what we are proud of and just own it.
Brewer says he's excited to work with other artists in the Richmond area.
It's not a space that only has Black art. That's going to be a strong focus because that's the culture that I come from.
The exhibit is free and open to the public and will run to the end of February.
Pancake fans, today's your day and all for a good cause. IHOP Restaurants created a National Pancake Day in 2006 to celebrate the almighty flapjack and to raise money for charity. Customers can receive a free stack of pancakes and are asked to donate to their charity of choice. According to the website, National Today, 93% of Americans say that they like pancakes. The topping? Maple syrup, of course. And 4% of Americans say that they like their pancakes with peanut butter. Richmond is no stranger to murals and other forms of street art, but a government-sponsored contest is putting art in an unusual place for a good cause. InSight's Jonas Schuhart has more.
The Richmond Storm Drain Art Project is a yearly contest put on by RVA H2O, a clean water initiative founded in 2014 by Richmond's Department of Public Utilities. The organization is dedicated to preventing pollution and making sure Richmond has a clean water supply. The contest started as a way to spread awareness about how storm drains like these carry pollution from the city streets to the James River.
This will be our 5th year, 2020, and it just is a colorful way to kind of have creativity for a cause.
Previous year's mural design winners can be found all over Richmond, in places like Browns Island, on VCU campus, and Carytown. But this year's winners will be right here in Scott's Addition on Lee Street and Arthur Ashe Boulevard. RVA H2O opened this year's contest in December. They spent the following months choosing the best submissions from artists like Nicole Gomez. She's a Richmond native and the only artist in the contest history to have multiple winning entries.
It's always good to get your art out, but I think it's important to be able to use that platform to, spread awareness or have a positive message.
Gomez won both the first contest in 2016 and the most recent one in 2019. She says this is because of her environmentalist messaging in the murals.
The purpose of it is to spread environmental awareness. Most people aren't aware that stormwater is the #1 way, water gets polluted.
People can expect to see this year's winning murals beginning in April. For VCU InSight, I'm Jonah Schuhart.
So far, RVA H2O has painted 16 storm drains, with 6 more on the way from 2019. All of these designs can be found at rvah2o.org.
VCU's baseball team kicked off their season on February 14th with a 3-game series at Charlotte, winning 2 games. InSight's Jasmine Sneed has more on the goals of their 2020 season.
VCU baseball is looking to defend its 2019 A10 regular season title after finishing last season 39-19 overall and 19-4 in the A10 conference. The team has been picked first in the A10 preseason poll. VCU received 8 first-place votes. Head coach Sean Stifler says that doesn't mean anything to him.
It's kind of just noise at this point of the year. No games have been played. They don't give out championships at the beginning of seasons. You gotta get through the grind of the season.
VCU lost a few key players this year, but many are returning and there are even 14 newcomers. Stifler says they'll bring energy to the team.
I hope they give our guys the confidence, understanding that if someone does go down, we do have the depth and the quality of players behind them to fill in those roles.
Back in December, the Baseball Performance Center opened. This is a $1.9 million hitting and pitching facility. Coach Stifler says that this center will afford the coaches and players the means and skills to win championships and to develop professional players. Like Paul Witt, who was the A10 All-Conference first-team infielder.
So definitely makes working out, I wouldn't say easier, but more exciting and more enjoyable to work out.
Witt's a senior this year and says he's excited for his last chance at the A10 championship.
I expect to win a championship with these guys, and I expect nothing less.
Big expectations as the Rams start the new season. For VCU InSight, I'm Jasmine Sneed.
VCU's first conference game will be Friday, March 20th against St. Bonaventure. For the first time in program history, the Rams will be hosting this year's A10 championship in late May. A Virginia organization dedicated to the state's economy on the water recently held its 100-year anniversary here in Richmond. 100 years ago, a group of Norfolk business leaders signed a charter establishing the Norfolk Maritime Exchange, now known as the Virginia Maritime Association. The event in mid-February included a ceremony where sponsors and leaders added their signatures to the charter. Governor Ralph Northam was a surprise guest. The association is celebrating with chapter receptions and a banquet coming up in May.
It's not the kind of thing you want on your vacation, for it to be cut short by what's becoming a global health concern. A recent VCU graduate's trip to Southeast Asia was cut short due to the coronavirus. InSight's Ava Lolita Hansen has more on this.
Bethany Hatulin graduated from VCU this past December. Her graduation present the next month was an overseas trip to Southeast Asia, just as a deadly virus emerged in that area of the world.
Noticed that everyone was just scrambling once we landed.
First, she traveled to the Philippines to visit her family. After spending a day in Beijing, they took a flight to Hong Kong to board a cruise. They were turned away. Turns out anyone who took a step into China had to make different arrangements.
Saying that they were sanitizing everything every 2 hours. And yeah, That's what I would say the environment was like. It seemed very hectic.
The Hatulins family quickly decided it was time to come back home as soon as possible.
Those white trash suits almost with the clear masks, and that's when we kind of put the pieces together and saw how serious it was.
Turns out the Hatulins' experience isn't unique. Countless flights have been canceled due to the virus. Richmond travel agent William Hewlett says he wouldn't book future travelers to China. Hewlett says local officials need to work harder.
In an active situation there, I wouldn't recommend it.
Despite the commotion, Hatulin says she did enjoy what little time she spent with her family. Even a global health crisis can't stop family. For VCU InSight, I'm Ava Lolita Hansen.
According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, over-the-sea travelers should take the same precautions that they would avoid catching any illness like the flu.
And finally tonight, the government of Australia recently announced that finally the wildfires that have done so much damage in their country are finally out.
Here in Richmond, InSight's Audra Henderson bridges the connection from thousands of miles away to a Chesterfield boy who wants to help.
Australia is still picking up the pieces from the wildfires. According to Reuters, 33 people and over 1 billion native animals have been killed, and 27 million acres have been destroyed since September. More than 10,000 miles away in Chesterfield County, 12-year-old Michael Lamont felt he needed to do something.
I heard about the wildfires in Australia and the people who live in their homes, and I really wanted to help.
That help took the form of T-shirts with what turns out is his favorite animal, and one Australia knows well, the koala bear.
An incident right here in the kitchen is what caused the connection between the Australian wildfires and Michael's creation of koala bear tees.
It was a grease fire. They only lost the stove, but it made Michael think.
Well, I didn't get to experience it, but I almost felt what the people that actually lost their homes due to fires felt, and I got it, and I understood.
Michael's mom, Brandy, says he searched online for days before ending up on the idea of bears.
Well, originally he was really focusing on the koalas, and I supported him fully, and then I mentioned maybe we want to think about some of the people there as well.
All the proceeds are going to the Koala Bear Foundation and the Australian Red Cross. They're hoping that'll be a total of at least $1,000. It's Michael's gift to Australia from 10,000 miles away. For VCU InSight, I'm Audra Henderson.
Michael's Totally Koala-fied t-shirts sell for $20 each. For more information, check us out on our social media page. Search VCU InSight.
And that does it for this edition of VCU InSight. You can see any of the stories from tonight's newscast by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Let us know about any stories you'd like to see on our show.
You can also find our full show on our YouTube page. Just search VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Erica Mokin.
And I'm Joy Foltz. We'll see you next time.